everybody. It's Thursday night, 6 p.m. And that means one thing and one thing only. Time for the Outdoor Showcase. I'm Mike DelVisco. Sheila is planning a really big party this weekend. So she had too many things going on right now, trying to get ready for that. So you got me solo tonight, but we got a great show for you guys. As usual, we're back here. It's our regularly scheduled Thursday night show. We are going to be back on to September 2nd. We're doing 2 shows in September. We'll talk about that probably at the end of the show a little bit. This is going to be the first of a couple of really cool shows that I'm extremely excited about. And it's because the times are changing here just a little bit. The summertime is coming to an end, I hope. And we're starting to get into some really, really good fall topwater fishing pretty soon. And anybody who knows me knows that I love throwing topwater baits. It started to happen a little bit here at my home lake at Douglas Lake here in East Tennessee. And I've talked to some people from all around the country that have also been experiencing some really cool topwater fishing as of late. Our water temperatures are starting to come down a little bit. The fish are starting to bite. Douglas Lake, as you guys know, if any of you guys have fished it, is a drawdown lake. So they start drawing the water down. You get a little current, you get a little temperature change, and that brings those fish shallow and they start biting. So we're going to do a couple of topwater shows, and tonight I'm really, really excited to have this guy on. We're going to have him here in about 12 more minutes. Jason Yoakum from Boing Lures. You guys are going to be in for a treat talking to him. We're going to have actually almost a whole show with him. And as always, like we talked about the last show, if you guys have any ideas, questions, comments, things like that, you can always send us an email through social media, through email, send it to the East Tennessee Fishing Show page, or my email, mike@theoutdoorshowcase.com. You've got something you want to see, a great idea for the show. Maybe you've got a product that you want to actually get on the show as well. Reach out to us and we'll make sure that we get back to you and address that and try to get you on the show. So we're going to try to do, 2 shows every month here. We got 2 in August, which was awesome. Last month's show was great. Todd from the guys from Pulse Lures, man, what great baits. And they're working right now everywhere. He still has his special going on. They did a special going on till September 5th, I believe is when it is. Check his site out, pulsefishlures.com for that. And we're going to try to continue doing 2 shows a month. So without further ado, we're going to get on here. I shot some stuff recently out on the lake here, and just some timely fall tips that you guys can do with some of your topwater baits, as well as one of my favorite baits, a chatterbait that I like fishing 12 months out of the year, but especially right now, this time of year, chatterbait and a buzzbait, a couple of my favorite things to throw. So here's a little bit of that to guys get you ready for some fall fishing, and then we'll come back with Jason Yoakum from Boing Lures.
So you've heard me talk about it before, that there's no doubt the effectiveness of Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits as not only a standalone product, but as a product that you can use in conjunction with other lures like spinner baits, chatter baits, buzz baits. And today was no exception. We had a great day on the water. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, you know, we're kind of approaching the end of summer. Fish are still shallow, believe it or not. There's a lot of different things going on. You know, there's a lot of bait shallow, there's a lot of bluegill shallow, and that's keeping some of the bass shallow too. The other thing that's happening too is that they're starting to spread out a little bit and become a little bit more isolated. There's not big groups of fish like you'd normally see, you know, in June and July stacked up in deeper water. It's becoming much harder to try to figure out how to catch those fish. So a lot of times what I do when that happens is I'll shift focus from real deep stuff to real shallow stuff. And that was evident today. But the obstacle that we face in trying to do that is being able to figure out how to catch them quick and how to dissect cover. So the fact that Gary Omoto custom baits are great as just standalone products, flipping, pitching, casting, Senko, flapping hog, cowboy, mermaid, all those different baits that they make that are great for catching fish off of isolated targets. I need to cover a little bit more water. So what I'm doing now is I'm using them in conjunction with a chatterbait, which you've seen me fish before, and I'm also fishing a buzz bait, and I'm mixing up trailers to try to figure out how to get the fish to react. And that's one of the things I tend to do. You know, it's still fairly warm water conditions, so I'm looking to bulk my bait up a little bit. So as opposed to what I would normally fish in the, say, spring and fall, which is a 3/8 chatterbait with a shad-shaped worm on the back. You may not think about that as a shad-shaped worm being a great trailer for a chatterbait. It's a drop shot bait. It is one of the best chatterbait trailers that I've ever fished when they want a smaller profile offering. Now what I'll do too, because it's summertime or the end of summer and the water's still a little bit more, you know, a little bit warmer, is I'll replace that with maybe a D-shad. Little bit bulkier bait, little bit bigger bait, little bit bigger profile. Or maybe I might even go to the fork tail or the original Zako. I may even go to the new paddle tail Zako. I might experiment around and see how the fish want my bait a certain time of day, windy conditions, cloudy conditions, dirtier water, clearer water, that sort of thing. I usually let the conditions dictate to me how I want to throw my bait and what trailer I want to put on. And one of the things that I noticed today, as you'll see from some of the footage, is the fact that the fish were much more isolated. Big expanses of cover is real hard to dissect fish and where they're located. But what I'll do to try to save myself a little bit of time is I'm going to pick more isolated cover. So an individual bush, an individual tree, an individual grass clump, things like that. Something that's a little bit more isolated. It just helps me be able to figure out how to pattern and catch fish more quickly. Now we did catch some fish on a buzzbait, which was a whole lot of fun. It's something that I'm going to alternate between the chatterbait, spinnerbait, and a buzzbait. And what I've done too is I've bulked my buzzbait up a little bit here. Is I've taken the original skirt off and I've put a Yamamoto Zako. This is the original one with the little fork tail. And this is one I really like. You know, the water's fairly clear right now. It's not horribly dirty. We haven't had a lot of rain. So I want a bulkier bait, but I also want something that's got a little bit bigger profile, but is not overpowering too. And that little fork-tail original Zako is awesome. And the thing that I do, you notice how I've got it rigged up here, is that I've got it rigged up so that the flatter piece of plastic rides on the bottom. That just helps keep my bait up a little bit, helps me fish a little bit faster, streamlines the bait a little bit, and then I'm going to put a trailer hook on the back just in case they short strike it. That is a killer combination. Is what we caught all our fish on today. And the other thing I'll do too is I'll experiment, just like I did with the chatterbait. Is I'm going to experiment sometimes if they want a little bit noisier bait, something that thumps a little bit more, and this paddle tail Zako, awesome for doing that. And then you might even need it even more bulky Yama Frog. So great standalone baits, but great baits that are in combination with other lures to make them a lot more effective. So really kind of a fun thing to experiment with, and that's the cool thing about Gary Yamamoto custom baits, is that there's no wrong way to fish them. There's no wrong way to use them in different applications. They work in combinations. They work great standalone. You can experiment, fun, and that's one of the things about them being a custom bait. You can customize things just like you want. One last thing that I'll do too is I'm usually always going to have some type of a follow-up bait, because you know when you're fishing a topwater bait, they do tend to miss your bait at sometimes, and you know you might get short striked on a spinner bait or a chatterbait, and I want to have something that I can throw back at them. Now, one thing I've noticed too is that there's been a bluegill spawn going on for the last couple of months, and that's one of the things that's keeping these fish in and around shallow cover, is that bluegill spawn. So one of the things I really like to do is take one of these Yamamoto D-shads, and this is the perch color, which kind of mimics or looks like a bluegill. It's kind of got that same coloration. I've got it on a 3/0 offset worm hook, and a lot of times what I want to do when I'm using this as a follow-up bait is I don't want to just cast it out there and start working it really fast. I want to just pitch it out there and let it fall. So one thing I do, which helps me greatly in being able to get a lot more strikes, VMC bladed hybrid treble hook. I've got it on a little keeper right there, just like you would a trailer hook, and all I'm going to do is, before I bury the plastic back into my hook, I'm going to take this little trailer and I'm going to slip it over the back just like that, and then I'm going to bury my D-shad in just like that and skin hook it so that it's weedless, and then I run this trailer back up, and you can even poke one of the hooks in just like that, and now I get a little bit of flash. I've got the treble hooking back so that when they eat the bait like that and they start pulling away, they get hooked. You don't have to physically set the hook real hard or pay attention. I'm just watching my line, watch my line to jump, go ahead and set the hook just like you would a regular, you know, flipping piece of plastic. It's a really, really good way to trigger some additional strikes. That Yamamoto D-shad's a killer bait right there. And it's got enough bulk to it in density that it falls really good too, so it'll almost kind of fall straight down. Really, really good thing that I like to use as a follow-up bait. So just a few cool things you can do this time of year. Cover some water, fish shallow. Don't think that all the fish are deep, because a lot of times it might surprise you how shallow you can actually catch them this time of year. Try some different baits on the back of your chatterbaits, spinner baits, buzz baits. Have a few standalone things. Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits is truly a custom bait company.
Attention! The East Tennessee Fishing Show is back. The biggest and best fishing event in the South returns January 20th through the 23rd. Shop the largest selection of custom tackle for bass, crappie, striper, fly fishing, catfish, and more. Plus, we have added saltwater. Get the best deals of the year on new boats. Learn about the latest in fishing equipment with free seminars from top anglers. It's back. Don't miss the biggest fishing event of the year, the East Tennessee Fishing Show.
All right, and we're back. Mike DelVisco here with you. Outdoor Showcase Thursday, August 19th. And, you know, hope that got your appetite ready for a little bit of topwater fishing here this fall. And it is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. You know, I get asked a lot, what if I had one bait to throw, what would it be? And it's pretty hard for me just to pick one bait, but if I had kind of one category of lures to fish, it would definitely be topwater, because it's so much fun to fish them, so much fun to catch them on it, and it's never, even if you're not catching them, sometimes it's a whole lot of fun. And this guy coming up here right now, absolutely no stranger to catching some fish on topwater lures. There he is right there, Jason Yoakum, Boing Lures. It is, you and I have talked about this for the last month or so, trying to do a topwater episode, kicking it off. We've known each other for a long time, driving all around the country and seeing each other at shows and events and stuff. And you have absolutely one of the coolest topwater baits I think I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, I appreciate that, Mike. It's an awesome opportunity to be speaking with you tonight, and love coming down to that area. It's kind of our home away from home here from Indianapolis down there, and people are very kind, and they love their topwater down there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we sure do here in East Tennessee. And, I think that the first time that I met you was at the Indianapolis show there. That's where you're from. You're from there in, central Indiana. I traveled around to a lot of different events, and I think that was maybe the first time I had seen the Boing lure. And then, talking to some people down here, they kind of kept it quiet for a long time here on Douglas Lake. And I'm sure a lot of other places too, because there's so many instances where that bait works really, really good. Think of all your Missouri lakes, Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks, Texas lakes. It works virtually everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure to hear the stories. That's what keeps me doing this, is just hearing that story of the success that said anglers had on any lake in the country in most cases. And I don't claim to be better than anybody. I just claim to be different than anybody. And I think you get that pressured fish to go for a different sound that they're not hearing on a day-to-day basis in most cases.
Yeah. So for people that are not familiar with your lure, and there's actually a popper that we're going to talk about as well too a little bit later, but the original Boing lure, and you are not the original owner of the company, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm the third owner of the company. It started out about 30 years ago on Kentucky Lake, and it was kind of literally a lure, almost a folklore that people just didn't really talk a lot about. And we've kind of taken it to social media and got it out more to the masses, but we still got a long ways to go.
Yeah. And it's basically for people who don't, and I'm sure you probably got one back there, but I think I had seen where the original Boing lure was a kind of a customized either super spook or regular size spook that they did the modifications to. And then since then, the bait has gone through some different changes. You've got some really crazy nice paint jobs on them now. The shape of the body's a little bit different, the hooks and things like that. So it's kind of gone through some transformations over, in that 30-year period to what it is today.
Yeah, the biggest change that I made is I tapered the back end, so the cavity is not the same throughout. So the tapered back end with the Gamma number 4 hooks, razor sharp, hand-tied feathered trebles, that allows, in our opinion, for a better hookup ratio. So that's kind of the reason for that change. We went to some 3D eyes, some UV resistant paint, Worth stainless steel split rings. So we try to be quality all the way, with it being a USA made in the USA topwater bait.
Yeah, and not to mention that the sound that your bait makes, and if people have not heard the sound that it makes, you can just imagine what it is by the name of your company, Boing Lures. Absolutely.
We think it makes a metallic sound in the water. Just to put it into perspective, I've had a bat come down in broad daylight, try to grab the lure off the pole. We've had aggressive blow-ups to where the lure almost doesn't even hit the water, and they're coming a couple feet out of the water. I've had a Gatorade on the lake when I'm fishing, dead sticked it for 2 to 3 minutes, and had a 5-pounder come up and T-bone it. I didn't even need to set the hook on it. So it definitely does some unique stuff. And if the conditions are right, it's a fun lure to have in the box.
Yeah, awesome. And just a little bit, give us a little bit of history of how you got involved, because I actually don't even know this story either. I basically, my first visual of the bait was meeting you at a show up in Indianapolis, and I didn't really know a whole lot until I started to do a little bit of research on it and heard some stories from some other people on, it's been around a lot longer than that, but the word's getting out. But how did you come to be involved?
I basically went to a fishing, basically a small club meeting. A guy presented the bait company, and I said, I'm interested in it. And he was an Air Force pilot. His name is Jeff Thompson, locally from a town in Mooresville area here in Indiana, about 15 and 20 minutes from where I am. He gave me the opportunity. He knew that I was good at marketing and sales and social media, gave me an opportunity to not only have an existing lure, but to also run with an already established company. And we feel like we've had success and inroads just based on the amount of traveling we've done and success we've had. So I just had a conversation with him just the other night, speaking about this opportunity. And I just want to say that I'm blessed to have him kind of in my corner cheering for me, but at the same time, he's doing great things in the fishing. Just a real quick information about him. He actually does the Paralyzed Veterans Tour, travels all over the country, great ambassador. If you're not familiar with that circuit, it's just a great circuit to get people out on the water that may not be able to otherwise get out on the water in some cases.
That's awesome too. I've been involved in some of those projects, and it's just it's one of the most rewarding parts of my whole job is getting to do that. Kids and our servicemen and women and things like that. Anytime you can do those kind of events, it's great. Hopefully I get a chance to meet him one of these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have one of the baits right there you can hold up for us?
I do. This is our walking style cigar bait. That's in the bluegill color.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's funny you held that particular one up because I was just looking at your website with your different colors on them and stuff. And there is, letting kind of one of my secrets out of the bag here on Douglas Lake, but there is a bluegill spawn, I think a couple of times a year here. And it may be, that it's not an isolated thing with our lake. It could be happening in a lot of different places too. These deep, clear lakes, a lot of times we'll see a couple of different bluegill spawns. And, that deal for me all throughout the month of July leading into August is a great pattern that not a lot of people exploit. When you think about throwing a big cigar style bait, a walking bait, you're thinking about offshore stuff, big points, deep water, pulling them up. But, the shallow water applications for that bait is unreal too. And that pattern right there that you had held up, that's one of the things that I'm fishing is a bluegill pattern.
Absolutely. What's exciting about this bait too, because you're sharing some secrets and kind of lays of the land. What's neat about this bait is that a lot of people don't realize is some people are actually underhand pitching this very similar to a jig tight to cover. And since this bait is sounding from the time it hits the water, the time it gets back, they're actually dead sticking that lure before they move it out of the strike zone. So you can sit that bait right on top of a fish's head for 7 to 10 seconds. And I've seen some weird stuff. The fish identifies it, they suck it under, they swim back underneath that log, and you don't even really set the hook. It's game on after that. So that's just kind of a side technique around this time of the year that people all across the country are using and having very good luck with that pressured tournament day fish.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we kind of a nice segue into this little video clip that you had sent me. I watched it this morning, and it was really cool to be able to see, the bait and some applications for techniques that you wouldn't normally throw a big walking style bait, and that's around shallow water cover. So we're going to take a really short break, come back with Jason Milcom from Boing Lures, and get about a little 5-minute clip that we want you guys to watch, and then we'll be right back. Mike DelVisco, Outdoor Showcase.
Best in outdoor products every month on the Outdoor Showcase. Hosts Sheila Bunch and Mike DelVisco bring you new, unique, and awesome products for the outdoors, featuring guests and segments. Whether you fish, boat, camp, or just love the outdoors, there's always something for everyone. We are live the last Thursday of every month on the Pride Outdoor Network, available on Fire TV and Roku. For more info or to have your products showcased, visit theoutdoorshowcase.com. We'll see you in the great outdoors.
Hi guys, I'm Todd Barnes, and it's my honor to introduce you to a new bait by Boing Lures, and this is it right here. This is a Boing Lures topwater bait. The bait gets its name because of the sound that it emits while being retrieved. The Boing topwater bait is so unique, and there's nothing like it on the market. When you're working this bait, it will simultaneously put off two different pitches. It'll put off a high pitch frequency and a low pitch frequency, and it drives fish absolutely crazy. One thing I've witnessed while fishing the Boing lure is its drawing and triggering qualities. They are absolutely amazing. When you fish the Boing topwater bait, be prepared to witness some of the most aggressive and vicious strikes. Each Boing lure is hand painted by Dwayne Beatty at Baitworks, and we have some of the most realistic finishes and paint jobs on the market today. Boing lures also come equipped with razor sharp Gamakatsu 2X hooks and a hand-tied feather trailer. Where this feather treble really comes into play is if you have a fish that's following the bait but he won't commit to it, I like to stop the bait, pause it, and then when you go to twitch again, it acts like a jointed swim bait, and that tail will kick out. And a lot of times that fish will go ahead and commit and take the bait at that point. The Boing topwater bait casts extremely well. You'll also notice that the Boing has a tapered back. And what that does, it allows the fish to get the bait deeper so you have more positive hookups. Where this really comes into play is when you're fishing for smallmouth or spotted bass. With the Boing, I found my hookup ratio on spotted bass and smallmouth is a lot greater due to that tapered back. I spent a lot of time behind this bait, and I'm still learning ways to fish it. Traditionally, a walking style bait is made for deep highland reservoirs where there's clear water and you're trying to draw fish up to the surface. But with the Boing, I've noticed I can catch fish in clear water just like you can with a traditional stick bait, a walking style bait. But you can also catch fish in stained and muddy water. When fish are relating to targets in dirty water, a lot of times I would generally throw a prop bait, but I think the Boing does an even better job than a prop bait if you're throwing around laydowns, stick ups, treetops. This bait puts out such a unique sound, and it really calls fish up to the surface. You will get some of the most brutal strikes on this bait. Check us out on Facebook at Boing Lures, and you can check us out online at fishboinglures.com.
Hey, Mike DelVisco back with you here again. Man, I wanted to just keep watching that. That was really cool stuff. And we got Jason Yoakum from Boing Lures with us here live too, talking about some really cool baits. And Jason, that video was shot a little bit ago. I'm not exactly sure how long it was, but I did repost here on the comment section, boinglures.net, just so people can go ahead and find you guys. The one thing that I took away from that is the dirtier water, shallow water applications, stuff like that, where, you know, traditional walking style baits, you know, a deep clear, fishing points, fishing bluffs, places like that, where you need to pull the fish up. You know, they start schooling around bait out in deep water, and you can throw the bait a mile on those schoolies. But that shallow water application is really intriguing to me too.
Yeah, just to give you some perspective, we've actually had scuba divers and snorkelers go 8 to 10 feet below the lure. With the human ear, you can hear it, which that's saying something. So shallow water all day long, a little bit deeper water. We've had stories where people will graph fish pretty deep that come up underneath it and swallow the bait sideways. So I mean, it's definitely unique. It's definitely a different approach, and the acoustic with the high and low frequency. If you ever go in a wooded cove, it really reverberates off that wooded cove. I like to throw in that setup just to kind of hear the sound, because it really just goes through the entire cove when you're working a bait side to side.
That's cool. And when you held that first bait up, the bluegill bait, just for perspective for people, length of the bait, weight of the bait, and that sort of thing?
It's basically 4 inches long. It's 3/4 of an ounce. What makes the bait castable is it doesn't roll end over end because it's a perfect weight distribution for front and back. Just a quick tackle tip. It's very, it's not a real great idea to switch out the hooks on it just because it's a perfect weight distribution. If you do have a personal preference, just try to balance the weight off as best as you can. Last tip I want to give is it doesn't sit flush to the water. It doesn't sit head up. It actually sits like this in the water. So you're not really having to sore wrist the bait. I like to say I can sit in a lawn chair and walk the dog pretty effortlessly as opposed to having to snap that wrist to make it sound. And then if I can, just for a second here, if you guys can hear that, I'm going to try to give you an indication of what we're talking about here. So as you're shaking the bait and then you're stopping it, it's still sounding even though you're not actually moving the bait. So that's what we feel like makes us unique.
And that's really cool because, a lot of times you're not fishing under perfect conditions where it's dead flat calm and, there's always some type of commotion, even if it's from the bait itself. If you've got flat conditions and the bait's been walking like this and there's a little bit of ripple that it's creating, you let that bait sit still and it's going to make just a little bit of noise to attract some fish.
Twitch, twitch, pause. We say boing, boing, boom. So if you're going to twitch it, twice and let it sit there, sometimes you can get that pile drive bite, which gets everybody running. Everybody likes that topwater bite.
Yeah. And that seems to be the case in the shallow water right now. The retrieve for me, because they're in really, really tight little specific areas, is to, number one, make an accurate cast. And a lot of times it's up underneath some trees or by a bush or something like that. So, your bait being 4 inches, but also being 3/4 of an ounce is fairly compact and easier to throw. If you think of a, like a super spook or a bigger style walking bait, that is much bigger silhouette, a pretty hard bait to be able to pitch or flip up underneath trees and stuff like that. But your bait, a little more compact, gets the job done a lot easier. And the retrieve is pretty much just like you said, twitch, twitch, let it sit still. And the strike zone's really, really small right now on these fish.
I like to say it's like walking a snake across the glass or the ice. I mean, it's literally just kind of does all the work. Less is more, definitely. Everybody fishes it a little different, but I think having that sound quality behind your retrieve or your pause or walking it very quickly and making the fish catch up with it. Also, the re-identification of the bait due to the sound after the fish T-bones it and misses it. We've had a lot of fish come up 3, 4, 5 times in the same cast because they just can't figure out what the heck it is. A lot of times it'll mimic a dying shad as well. If you got a little sound but you're not moving the bait, that fish sees that bait as an easy target. So therefore we'll get some strikes there as well. Just sitting the bait still, letting it go to work, and letting that aggressive fish that's really looking to eat, come up and feed on it.
Awesome. And I kind of lost my train of thought. I was listening too much to what you were saying. So yeah, the shallow water deal for me right now, and probably for about another, maybe 3 weeks, we start to get into that mid-September range, towards the end of September too. And the fish are going to change again. There'll still be plenty of shallow fish, but one of the things that we do here in East Tennessee a lot is fish bluff banks and channel swings and places like that where the bait fish are congregating and they start schooling a little bit more and the water's cooling down. And that's when, the drawing capability of that bait to get the fish to come up out of deep water is really important too. And the one thing that I saw in that first video was that because the bait's really tapered on the back end, you don't really lose a lot of fish on it and they get hooked a whole lot better. And in that deep water, as well as I do, that's a really, really important characteristic.
Absolutely. Largemouth are prevalent and the hookup ratio is great. What's also cool too is if a smallmouth short strikes that bait, you still got a very good chance to hook that up. And most baits can't offer that because the back end is tapered. It's going to be tough to see, but you can kind of see the cavity being wider in the middle and tapered in the back. And then you've got that treble hook sitting right on top of the taper. So if it short strikes it, largie or smallmouth, there's a good chance that they can eat that and you at least get them with one set of hooks. And then from there it's game on and you muscle it into the boat.
Awesome. And you do, aside from the walking style bait, there's another bait that you have, and you have a popping bait, which is, I have not caught a ton of fish on a popper this year. It's been mostly the walking bait for me has been like the deal since the early spring. Our shad spawn throughout summer, the cicada hatch going on, that sort of thing. But, there's certainly a time for a popper as well. And you guys have one as well.
How does a 4-inch popper sound, which is an aggressive profile? And this right here is specifically designed for smallmouth. That's a pink and a purple fade. It's an auto color. So as you spin it in the light here, it's actually going to change colors before your eyes. Phenomenal color all across the country. I'll even show you the battle scar on top of the lake, or on top of the bait there, because it definitely is prevalent. But now you've got a 4-inch popper. Now I do want to show you the lip on this. Just a second here. So you've got a lip that actually is going to allow that thing to spit. So what's nice about this bait is most poppers are going to come straight back to your rod tip and walk in kind of a straight line. That's a better look at it there for your viewers out there.
Yeah.
That bait actually is going to walk a little bit less side to side than our cigar style bait. But what's cool about it is it's going to walk, it's going to chug, it's going to spit. And then you're looking at basically the same specs, 4 inches, 0.80 ounces. So now, we're talking about a bigger one. If I'm fishing for a kicker fish, I'm going to throw a 4-inch popper. Now, there are applications where they want a smaller one, but if I'm going to get that kicker fish, I'm going to get that. What's interesting about the popper too is once that bait hits, it's got that lip on it. You can actually hit that lip with some force on the water, and you can actually skip that up underneath docks. And that's a whole new technique to topwater, because it's perfect weight distribution and allows for that without a backlash. So you got the best of both worlds to get in those hard to reach places. As you well know, an old trick, I like to throw in areas that have cobwebs on them because they haven't been hit, and getting in those tight spaces, it's just phenomenal to kind of not see the bait, but yet just hear the explosion and bring it in. It's getting my blood pumping just talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, that's you talk about that. That's a really unusual pattern. People think that, you go down a string of docks, and the first thing you want to do is pick a jig or a warm up or something that you can, or a Senko, so you can skip it up onto the dock. But how many people throw a topwater on docks? And I can't tell you how many fish that I've caught with walking style baits or poppers, just because you can, pop, let it sit off of boat docks, and you hit it right on the head. Those, places where people don't throw, look for some cobwebs in between, especially if you've got docks, like bigger docks with faceted sections, that there's a boathouse next to the main dock, and there's a pontoon boat. You pitch in between the pontoon boat and the first pier and stuff like that. Just places where guys don't, fish, and especially where fish don't see that kind of a bait.
Absolutely. I think being different and getting in different spots, but also having a sound that can call them out, the reverberation back up underneath a dock or an aluminum, it just has that reverberation. So then that way you can fish it very slow, but you can also fish it quick to get that aggressive strike. So ends of docks, ladders, all fishermen kind of know the tricks of the trade there, but we think that this bait just does something a little different. And if a fish is present, a lot of times they'll come up and hammer that.
Yeah. And we've actually got, leading into our next little break right here, we've got some more video to show you guys, and this is specifically on the popper. So we're going to take a really quick break. Got another few minutes of some great video of Jason Yoakum, Boing Lures. We'll be right back. The Outdoor Showcase.
Available now. Go check them out, pulsefishlures.com or your nearest retailer.
There we go. Look at this. We just had a blow up, and I was right there. We go. What are you using here?
This is the G2 popper.
Come on, back behind me.
I'm going right here.
There you go. All right. Nice. Beauty.
Definitely an 18-inch.
Yeah.
Newton Lake bass. Nice fish. That's a Newton Lake beauty. Right here. Second fish, only a handful of casts. Look at this.
Look at there.
Look at
that's
this.
a 20-incher. 20-inch bass.
Okay.
I would talk to you longer, but there's about 50 of them busted down here.
Oh, they're looking, but that other one was.
G2 pop.
Okay, yeah. Talk about this this bait.
You can actually see it right there.
Yeah, that's.
So what happens is when you shake that bait, that's what emits the sound. So when you leave that bait still, it still pulsates.
He continues to swing back and forth in there, and it makes almost like a heartbeat. I want to have my drag tight enough to get the fish hooked, to get a solid hook. And then if I see that I really have a big fish on, I will click this thing back.
Oh my god! Oh, he's on. Yeah, he had to wait for this thing. Just a hair.
Bigger fish.
There we go. Okay.
This one's pulling hard.
Oh my god!
I'm backing my drag off right now.
You gotta come on, get another jump for us here.
Yeah, there's your 5 or 6 pounder.
We haven't been out that long, but this is probably our biggest fish.
Well, there you go, probably.
Really, this is what brings you
Look
back.
at the size of that thing, though. Let's see it. You want to see it? I'll tell you what, it's kind of in that shad color. What do you actually call that? That's a So Sexy, right?
Yep, it's got the yellow vertical line right there with the white belly. But in G2 right now, we're running about 16 different colors.
Now you see, this is what you call a target-rich environment.
Look at that, another fish, another one on. Another one on tab.
This
look
is a
at
pretty
this.
good one, too.
Oh boy, look at this.
Better one.
Just came out with a new series color for the West Coast lakes. It's a hitch. We call it a California hitch.
Way too low. All right, nice fish. Hold on, how much fun is this? This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal.
This is what you pay your money for, boys.
Nice fish.
Coming aboard. Look at there.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
that's a
Show
19.
Show that G2 and that cup face on that. It's
There it is. We got a little clip on there to give it a little more action, but
Yeah.
boy, isn't that something when they just start just a feeding frenzy like that?
yeah.
And there's another one.
This is the stuff that makes you giddy.
Oh yeah.
This is the stuff that makes
isn't a really
addicts
big-
out of fishermen.
I'll
You
tell you
know?
what, there's a lot of tournament fishermen, a lot of lakes that are fishing for these.
Yeah.
Look at that one, he's been eating too.
Okay. Well, Tab, nice of you to invite me along to watch you fish here.
Tell you what, that G2 just hit the water. I gave it one pop and boom. There was no messing around. It was gonna take that baby
There's a
home. and show
Newton.
the
It's a
kids.
Newton bass.
Past the hot spot.
Yeah, this is the biggest one of the day so far. Look at that.
That's a nice problem to have, I guess.
man. It just. Shoot. Another tweener. Look at that, his shad belly. Look at your fat shad belly.
Yeah. All right, you want to see another fish on the next cast? I bet you $100. I'll have to owe you.
Here you go.
Okay, well, I'm using 12-pound line. And
12-pound mono, I take it because you're tough. Yeah. All right, little
All
buddy.
right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Let's get another one. There is the one we've been looking for.
Man, oh man, this is a big fish.
All right, we're back. We're back. Jason Yoakum, Boing Lures. That was really cool. And, one thing that you see, a sound like no other. And that is especially true. And that's really cool right there. Think about, and I want, if you paid attention here, about halfway through that video, the bait was barely moving, but you could still hear that knocker inside the bait making noise. And that is really cool right there. There's not many topwater baits that can do that right there.
I liken it to somebody standing on the end of a dock and constantly dropping pebbles off the dock, and you see the ripple or the inlet that it's making with the constant ripple. So it makes a huge ripple to start. I always like to pause it, 2 or 3 seconds before movement. But once I start to move it, I can pause it a few seconds, but honestly, I can pause it 30 seconds, 45 seconds. I mean, it's just amazing that each little twitch, each little movement, you can even hold it flat in your hand shake the bait through the plastic package or your hand, and you're feeling that reverberation. So multiply that by many times with the clarity of the water, the fish hearing it, them being aggressive, looking for, a fish-rich environment to hammer some shad. That's kind of the connection that we're trying to make with the fish.
Yeah. And, hopefully the popper bite will turn on here pretty soon. It's been, mostly, even the buzzbait bite around here has not been as good as it usually is. It's been a really good walking bait season here on our lakes. And I'm hoping that the popper bite gets pretty good so I can throw one of those things. But pretty awesome bait, when you think about it, just another application to, take that technology that you guys have and that the sound and apply it to another bait. People want to get with you, boinglures.net, and check out your website. Ordering information's there. And then I do notice that you've got a pretty active social media. You want to give those out too for guys who want to find out and interact with you a little bit more?
We try to keep it as simple as possible. You did a good job with the boinglures.net. Facebook is simply Boing Lures. YouTube channel is Boing Lures. All the videos that we saw there, as in addition to some others. And I think, going back to the popper, I think the popper's kind of underutilized, if you will, just because most people associated with the walking bait. The popper came on the market about 2 to 3 years ago. So I'd strongly encourage folks out there, if you haven't thrown that popper, to give us a shot. I like to be the person talking and interacting with the prospective fishermen. So if you ever have any questions, concerns, let us know. Color specialties is more up to the fisherman, but if you can give me, hey, it's clear or it's not stained water, I can give recommendation on the colors. And like I said, the reception down there is just phenomenal. It's like a homecoming for us, and the fans are there, the people are there. And what's cool is you see a guy that threw it 30 years ago that's seeing the bait for the first time in 20 years too. You have all kinds of those stories. So that's why I always mark that on my calendar every year, and just love coming down there and interacting with the folks down in that area.
Yeah, for sure. It's always great seeing you down here in East Tennessee for the shows, but we are also broadcast over there at the Pride Outdoor Network, as well as, East Tennessee Fishing Show Facebook page. So this thing is going out to, a whole new audience for you too. There may be some guy in Clear Lake in California that, has never seen your bait before, that are going to take it and go wreck a bunch of fish in California with it. Maybe some guys in Missouri. I actually talked to some guys in Missouri one year at the East Tennessee Fishing Show that was really happy that you were there with the baits too. And they used them on Table Rock Lake for, spotted bass and smallmouth there. And of course, it's a great largemouth fishery as well.
Just a sidebar that people probably don't even think about. We've had guys travel as far as like South Africa, Canada, Mexico. We've caught 10-pounders south of the border, but we've won a redfish tournament in the Atlantic Ocean with our topwater. So peacock bass bite them. I mean, there's all kinds of avenues. Many species will bite them. I've caught small bluegill on them, believe it or not. So, I mean, it's just a little different, and that's what we try to be, and we try to be American-made quality. That's the niche that we're carving out. If you're a tournament angler and you're looking for a high-quality bait that's virtually indestructible, man, you can't break it with your bare hands. You can step on it with your work boots, and you're not going to break it. So it's definitely durable and definitely put a lot of hard work into churning each bait out to the customer and the fisherman.
Yeah. And just so people know too, how many like different colors and things like that with each, the walker and the popper?
We have approximately 10 colors in each bait. We don't really do a lot of specialty painting, but we will. I have done some specialty painting, not me personally, but our painter for your area, like the all white lure with the red head is very prevalent at Cherokee, for instance. So we can specialize, but that's kind of case by case. So basically 10 colors of each style. And, we're always willing for suggestions, or, hey, this was a legendary lure, or, if a person wants to buy some quantity, if you've got an old bait that you had some success with, we can do a good job to get you what you want. So we're very flexible. We can pivot. We're a medium-sized company, and we're always looking to grow and to network and to meet people. And what keeps me driving is the success stories that you hear all across the nation on the bait.
Yeah. And that's got to be, when you hear about things, and I've never owned a bait company, but I'm sure from talking with a lot of guys, you've got, your heart and soul in that bait, and colors and styles and new designs and stuff. And you get some feedback from, people catching maybe their first bass or a biggest bass on one of your baits. And it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's the best story you can hear. The young man that was out with their grandparents, or the person that just hadn't fished in a while, or better yet, the person that really hasn't even ever thrown a topwater bait. I like to think of us as a beginning style topwater bait, because I don't think it really takes a whole lot of cadence to walk the bait, but it's user friendly. It's easy to throw. Your wrists don't hurt. There's a lot of reasons why it's a good bait to throw, but those are just some of the major points that you may not read in packaging or see in a video on the bait.
Yeah. And like you said, about 10 different colors in each bait. And I think that's kind of perfect. You don't need, and I stress this a lot in, some of the seminars that I do. And when people ask me questions about, what you need to start bass fishing with, you walk in stores and it's intimidating with the amount of colors and styles and, baits and things like that we've got to choose from. And I try to really keep it simple. If you've got, shad pattern baits, which will be really good here in another month or so. You've got some kind of chartreuse pattern or bluegill, like you showed, that's perfect for, that shallow bite when they're eating bluegills. And then you've got something in red. Of course, that doesn't really, I don't know if people throw red topwaters, but that pink one that you had is a good smallmouth catcher. But, you have some of the basic shades and you're ready to go fishing just about anywhere.
Yeah, to your point, Mike, and you're spot on. Those waters a lot better than I ever will. But at the end of the day, we found that simplistic works. The bone, I'll pay your audience a compliment in your local area. The bone plug is what they always come up and they know it by. And quite frankly, you don't even need to sell that in that area. That sells. The gizzard shad is a good pattern. The bluegill, the so sexy. So even though we might offer the 10 in each style, I make that even simpler to go for about 4 to 6 of each color and style really works. So then that way you're not overwhelmed with making a color decision. It's more, hey, is the bait going to work? What tournaments do I have this year? What decisions I want to make? And then quite frankly, we like people to try a couple and you'll be back, as opposed to selling you a whole handful. If you want a whole handful, we got those too. But it's just one of those deals where it's been phenomenal feedback and, all across the country. And it's just cool how different pockets of the country tend to buy certain colors. For instance, out east, they like the pro herring and the ice shads because those are prevalent in the waters that they fish. So we can definitely match the hatch within reason in most lakes in the United States.
Awesome. And again, people want to come check it out more, boinglures.net, and then also check out Boing Lures on Facebook. And I have not had a chance to go check out, you got Instagram too?
I do. Instagram is Boing Lures. My daughter, to throw a plug out to her, does all my social media. It's phenomenal to see the talent she has, the photos she's taken, the excitement that she gets when people like and see the posts. So it's just it's been a true blessing to work not only and grow the company, but to have her on as my social media photographer as well.
Awesome. And anything new that you've got coming down the pike, if you can talk about anything?
I am. We're going to go subsurface for the first time. We're going to go subsurface. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, just because there's some few hurdles I got to overcome. We're going to go there. And then we've actually got some stuff non-Boing related in the apparel. We think we're going to set the world on fire with the apparel lineup that we've got, as well as some extended Boing offerings in the apparel. We really want to offer that, as well as some other peripherals like the decals and things. So that way, if you're a fan of us, you've got our lure, you're able to identify with us as a company, as opposed to showing someone out of your tackle box, hey, this is the lure we have. So we're always looking for opportunities. We're always looking to network, and we're always looking to grow and treat people right and do what we need to do to make the fishermen successful, which will in turn grow, your show audience as well as our bait audience along the way.
Awesome stuff. Jason Yoakum, Boing Lures. Check them out, boinglures.net. Exciting, unique baits to go catch a fish with. I cannot wait for another couple of weeks here. Our lakes got trashed out of all this rain, so we got more coming. But as soon as things stabilize a little bit, fishing's going to start to get real good again. And I will probably have one of those things in my hand. Thanks so much for being with us here. We're just about out of time for this show. It went by way too quick. I'm sure I'll see you down the road somewhere, Jason.
Sounds like a winner. Real quick, Mike, I always appreciate it. I remember walking over at Chihuahua Park down there at the bottom of the stairs. You were always right there in that speaker booth. You were always very cordial to me, kind of showed me the ropes. Nothing but respect for you and what you do. And like I say, I really enjoy Sheila and Curtis are a great family, very personable. They're growing a great show with an opportunity. And quite frankly, people are pounding on the doors to get in every day of the show. So it's phenomenal people and a great atmosphere. But I'll be short just towards the end of the show there for you.
Awesome. Great stuff. Jason Yoakum, Boing Lures. Check them out, boinglures.net. If you don't have one, you need to get one. And or get two or get three or get a whole handful of them. So just a couple minutes left here in this show. This went by way too fast. We are going to plan on September 2nd, Thursday evening. We're trying to do one show at the beginning of the month and then our regularly scheduled Thursday show at the end of the month. And we are going to have another really cool show coming up for you. Be sure to watch and take a look at the East Tennessee Fishing Show Facebook page for updates and things like that as we get ready to announce who's coming on the show. Still working out some details for that. And then we've got something cool that we're working on for the end of September for you kayak fishermen, which is a really, really popular thing. I've even started to get into it this year a little bit. And I'm excited for this because I need to learn a little bit more about it. We're going to have a kayak episode coming up the end of September. Then we're going to be working on some fall stuff. So got a lot of exciting stuff happening here at the Outdoor Showcase, brought to you by the East Tennessee Fishing Show. We will have Sheila back with us here the next time. And if you guys have any questions, comments, want to see something on the show, want to get your products on the show, don't hesitate to reach out. Mike at theoutdoorshowcase.com or Brandy at theoutdoorshowcase.com, BRANDIE at theoutdoorshowcase.com. Send us a message, social media, reach out, let us know what you want to see, and we will see you guys next time, September 2nd, 6 p.m., right here, East Tennessee Fishing Show, Facebook Live, the Outdoor Showcase, and the Pride Outdoor Network. You can get that by getting on Amazon Fire TV, Roku device, download the app. It's super simple. Click on it. You can watch all the live content as well as be able to see all of our video on demand content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whenever you want to watch it. I'm Mike DelVisco. We'll see you next time.